Hello friends, in today's episode we will look at 2 ways you can easily plant ginger in your garden. So in this popular video that I had posted last year, a lot of you have asked me to demonstrate the actual planting technique, and that's exactly what I will be doing in this video. So in the first method that we will be seeing today, what you do is you take a nice big chunk of ginger and just plant it into your soil like that. Now this method is good if your ginger is fresh. So you can be the best judge. Just look at your ginger piece, and if it's fresh enough, then just go ahead and plant your ginger. And in my experience, May is the best time to plant ginger for a fall or late fall harvest. Now it might take some time for the ginger shoots to show up, and that's pretty normal depending on the temperatures in your area. It might take up to 30 days for the ginger plants to come out. They usually come out sooner though, in about 2 weeks or so. Now the potting mix that I'm using here for growing this ginger is about 90% compost, and ginger is one of the plants that really loves compost. I mean, if you could grow it in straight up compost, I'm sure that ginger would still grow very well. But I usually mix in some potting mix and some perlite as well, as you can see here. But the best ginger that I've grown is in about 90% compost and some potting mix. And it's very important that your ginger plant receives adequate water. So I'll be doing a video on my drip irrigation system sometime soon. But you can see here this plant has a nice drip irrigation system set up, and it needs a lot of water, especially during the hot summer months. So it's late October and it's harvest time, so I would suggest letting the ginger plant grow to at least about 3 to 4 feet before you begin harvesting your plant. Now you can feel around the base of the plant and see if the ginger has developed. In this case, I'm just going to pull off this ginger plant because it's been a few months since I planted it and it is ready for harvest. Now if you look at the soil again, it's really rich, very nice soil with a lot of compost, and this is exactly the kind of soil that you need to grow ginger. If you want to improve drainage, you can add some perlite or vermiculite, but even otherwise, this is the kind of soil that ginger loves. Now when you use a lot of compost, worm castings, etc., there will be a lot of weeds that will grow in your container as well. Now that's perfectly fine. You can just get rid of the weeds, and weeds in your soil actually mean that your soil is very fertile and very nice, and that's why all those weeds are growing. Now you can see here this ginger has been harvested, and after washing, this is how the ginger looks like. This is the baby ginger, fresh ginger that you can use. And some of you had asked me, what about the dried brown ginger that we find at the store? Well, that's because stores need to preserve the ginger on their shelf for quite some time, which is why they use ginger that's dried. The skin has dried and it stays on the shelf for a longer time. So if you have any ginger stalks left, you can just plant them back and they will grow just fine. However, I noticed that the best time to grow ginger is really between spring and fall, and anything later will not give you good results. Now, as a part of this video, I also wanted to show you what is not a good time to harvest ginger. So I had to clear this bed because of other reasons for my garden. However, you can notice that this ginger is not completely formed, and the plant is about 2 feet in height, and as you can see here clearly, the ginger roots are very small. This is the original ginger that grew into this big plant, and this will give you a good idea on how the ginger plant grows. However, the ginger itself is pretty small, as you can see here. This is still perfectly usable. You can still use the ginger. You can even use the leaves and the stems. They taste just like the ginger root. And this will just give you an idea not to harvest your ginger earlier than you should. Now our second method of growing ginger or planting ginger is the soaking method. Use this method if your ginger is dry or you think that it's not looking fresh or you have doubts in your mind whether it'll grow or not. So you basically just immerse the ginger for about 3 hours in a bowl of water before you plant it. And after about 3 hours, the ginger pieces would have soaked in all the water and become ready to plant. So you just plant it like the method we used earlier. You just dig in a little bit of soil and then cover it. Now in this case, I'm using the 5-1-1 potting mix instead of the 90% compost mix. The 5-1-1 mix is good if you do not have a lot of compost, but you do have peat moss, perlite and wood chips. But remember that for this mix, you need to add a complete vegetable fertilizer so that your plants get some nutrition. Now you can transplant ginger plants when they're very small. Now I do not recommend transplanting big ginger plants at all. However, as you can see here, if they're really small, you can just take them off the container and try to leave a little bit of soil around them. Now in this case, our soil is so fluffy and so loose that all the soil around the roots have fallen off. You can still look around the ginger plant and make sure that the transplants are ready and then gently separate them. If you have really big pieces of ginger, just use a knife. I'm just going to try to break these 2 pieces apart and then plant them in separate areas. Now by splitting the ginger root into multiple pieces, you're allowing the plants to have much more area to grow, and that's always a good technique because you'll have much healthier plants that way. And here are the ginger plants that we transplanted that are growing in the whiskey barrel container, and they're growing pretty well. However, I highly recommend that you plant your ginger plants in April or May, and that way you have a nice long growing season for a very nice fall harvest of ginger. So I hope you liked this episode, and let me know if you have any comments. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video, and I'll see you again soon. Happy gardening.